All right, this is a video overview for body weight only circuit number 1. Okay, so just a couple comments before we get into the exercise review is ideally you have a couple setups here. So I wanted to show, especially if you've been doing the first series of this for the last 6 weeks, kind of a different setup here. I'm in my basement now. Last time I was outside. So ideally you have a couple things. One is a towel. All right, so I'm going to show you some alternatives if you can't get a reverse push-up setup going. So last time that looked like, a board for me, a board in between 2 ladders. I also showed you could do like a baseball or a softball bat in between 2 stools. So again, an apparatus to hang from. I also showed a way to do pull-ups from that. Last time I performed pull-ups hanging from the side of my deck. So again, like mixing and matching based off of what you have access to, right? So ideally, in a perfect world, you would have somewhere to do pull-ups. I'm actually going to show you if you don't have an area to do pull-ups. I don't in my basement right here. And also if you don't have a reverse push-up setup. So if you have those things, great. You don't need this towel. But if you don't have a way to do pull-ups, you don't have a reverse push-up apparatus or setup, or those are even just too challenging for you to do either one of those pull-ups or reverse push-ups, I'm going to show you a way to replacements to do with the towel, essentially. Okay, so whatever you choose, especially if you're doing pull-ups, you're hanging with something, just be safe, right? We want to get a good workout, but not in the sacrifice of injuring ourselves or breaking something in our house. Okay, so going to review the exercises now. Just as far as the rep ranges are concerned, remember, those are like, a lot of times for the body weights, you're going to see heavy fatigue, very heavy fatigue, failure. If you're not familiar with that terminology, all that would mean is, is heavy fatigue means you're going to, with a body weight exercise to where you have like 1 or 2 reps left, right? You're not burning yourself out completely. Very heavy fatigue means you're leaving just like 1 in the tank, right? Not quite till failure, and failure means failure, right? We're emptying the tank right there, okay? But as far as the rep ranges for the other things, like sometimes you won't see that terminology. Instead, you'll see actual numbers, right? Remember, that's kind of like the sweet spot. You might need to go beyond that and significantly beyond that if need be, right? You could do double the reps, but remember, just be smart. So you don't want to get to the point where you're overdoing it in one of the exercises and then burning yourself out for the rest of the circuit. And if you're having trouble adapting it to fit you and your skill level and ability level, then that's when it would be a good idea to reach out to one of us, and then we can help navigate you through that, okay? So remember, we want everything out and set up ahead of time. This should be pretty easy for our body weight only circuit. Okay, like a lot of our circuits, we're going to start with a core exercise. So what we have on there is front plank knee tucks. Okay, so we could perform those one of 2 ways, right? And again, if the knee tuck version is too hard, we could stick with the traditional planks, right? And we could do those from the ground. I could do those with my feet elevated on something. Again, we're trying to match something that's going to challenge you, right? So for these, we can do them from our normal position down here, and then I'm just going to bring my knees up, alternating to the outside. You're going to rock your hips a little bit. Your butt might scoot up in the air just a little bit, right? But again, we're just giving a little variety there. Okay, you could also perform those with straight arms, so like the top of a push-up position, and I'm bringing that knee up to my elbow, okay? So that maybe might be a better version. Like I have a mat here. If you're just doing them on like a hard floor, doing them from your palms would probably be the better bet, much more comfortable there, okay? But don't overdo it. That's like a kickoff for the circuit there, right? Next one is our reverse push-ups or our towel rows, right? So reverse push-ups, like I talked about before, right? If we have that set up, great. If you don't, or those are too challenging, an alternative would be to get a nice long towel, right? Especially depending on the thickness of your anchor or your pillar that you're using, whether it's a deck post like I had used last time, or in my basement here, this pillar. But either way, I'm going to wrap this towel around, okay? And then I'm going to get in a very similar rowing position like we would do with our bands in the weight room, right? I'm going to sit back like I'm sitting in a chair. I actually want to scoot my feet probably closer to the apparatus that I'm anchoring from, okay? And then I'm rowing, right? So I'm here. So this might be a good option for you if you really struggle with the reverse push-ups or you just don't have that set up, okay? But a nice long towel. If you're too short, you're going to hunch forward with your chest. You want it, and you can even use a rope or something else. Doesn't have to be a towel. Just, we're used to utilizing the towels in the weight room, and a lot of us hopefully have access to a Long Beach towel, so that would probably be sufficient with that. Okay. Next one is our single leg squats. Okay, so remember, we also need something to prop our foot up on, right? So that could be a stair, a chair, a box, right? For this, I'm going to use a cooler. I've actually found, having done this at my house for a while, that putting something in the cooler helps keep it from tipping over or sliding. So I just put some extra free weights that I had in there to kind of anchor it down. Okay, but for our single leg squats, remember, propping that toe up, hopping out, so we're nice and long and our knee's not gonna go over our toe. And then from here, right, we want that good squat depth while maintaining good upper body posture, right? So if I was facing you, right, you should be able to read that Lehigh the entire time I'm doing this, right? So again, I'm here, I'm hopping out, I'm gonna find that balance point, I'm gonna get good depth, good upper body position, and I'm pushing up through this heel, right? The heel of the down leg, okay? You can make those harder by adding a little hop to it, okay? Increasing or decreasing your tempo, okay? Next one is push-ups. So push-ups are gonna, just like the last set of circuits, are gonna appear twice, okay? Once in the first half and once in the second half of the circuit, right? What I would suggest is, if possible, do some variety, do some different types of push-ups. We gave some suggestions on the program there, okay? But again, you might just do the regular push-ups, or you might still be at the point where we have to take our towel, okay, and roll it up and put it underneath our chest, right? So if I take this towel, quickly roll this guy up here, and now I put this underneath my chest as I'm doing my push-ups, it helps kind of give me some assistance to the bottom, maybe restrict my depth a little bit. So again, those are ways to adapt it to meet your skill level where you're at with your push-ups. But again, I would suggest, if possible, to do one type of push-up here, and then later on I'll comment on it again to do, just use some variety there, okay? All right, our next one is our side step over. So I'm gonna use this guy here, okay, or whatever I'm stepping up and over, okay? And I'm gonna start, so one foot always remains on here, okay? And so a lot of times these appear in our summer take-home program, so hopefully this looks familiar, okay? Now from here, I'm gonna drive up and over, right? And one foot always remains. Now for this, I wanna get a pretty good tempo, and I'm gonna get some air under my feet here, okay? So just when you do this, make sure that if you're struggling, that you slow down your tempo, okay? Ideally, we're going through this pretty quickly, right? We're driving one rep into the next, but if we feel like we're really gassing on this, it's okay initially, especially for the first week or two, to just slow down your tempo a bit. Get the good form, okay? Really drive up, get a little bit of hop, but ideally, we're going through one rep into the next here. As soon as we touch, we're rapid fire. And I would imagine a lot of us will get into that sooner rather than later, okay? So, next one is our pull-ups. So this is where pull-ups appear. Again, if you have the ability to do pull-ups, great, do them. And I say with the ability, I mean like actually something to hang from, and also you can do unassisted, more than 3, 4, or 5 reps. If not, what I would say is let's do a different variety. So for this, I'm gonna actually go back to a rowing exercise. I'm gonna show you how to do a different row. I found, and I've tried to play around with it a lot, it's just hard to do a pull down exercise on a pillar without it sliding on you, okay? Now if you would have something, a notch or something, some way to keep the towel from sliding down, you could get into our pull-up position, or our pull-down position rather, and do it, right? If the towel, you can get the towel to remain there. However, after playing around with this a lot, it eventually just keeps sliding down. So what I think the better bet is to just do another version of a towel row, okay? So the version I'm gonna show you now is a self-resisted single arm, okay? So for this one, you wanna be sitting, okay? So I'm gonna be sitting, again, we want a nice long towel for this. And as I'm going, one arm is gonna resist the other, right? So from this angle, you're gonna see my left arm start to pull, and I'm gonna actually give myself my own resistance with the other arm, okay? Then I'm gonna go back. Now I'm pulling with my right arm, and I'm holding back, giving myself my own resistance with the left arm. And then I'm gonna go back and forth. It's almost like when we do our partner towel rows, okay, in the weight room here, all right? So keep a consistent tempo with that. Try to get good range of motion so we're still finishing all the way with that elbow tucked in towards our rib cage, okay? But I think that would be a safer alternative if you can't do pull-ups or you don't have a spot to do pull-ups, okay? Next one is our dynamic air squats, okay? So think of these more for the bottom than the top. What I mean by that is a big reason we do vertical jumps and a big benefit of vertical jumps and squatting is injury prevention, right? For our hips, for our knees, okay? And a lot of that comes from the bottom, the deceleration, right? So a lot of times when we're doing our speed training or our plyometric stuff, you'll hear us land the jump low. Don't fight the landing, right? That's purposeful. The reason for that is because that landing, that soft landing with a good bend, right, and a good absorption down, that's great injury prevention, right? So that's kind of what we're looking at here. So as we do this, right, we're gonna get a little squat jump going, okay? I wanna just do one squat into the next, and I'm absorbing down. I'm not getting a ton of air. I'm not doing like my Vertec best vertical jump, okay? I'm getting a good air, I'm extending my hips, but I'm absorbing down at the bottom. I'm landing nice and low, okay? So again, that might be 8 reps, that might be 12, that might be 16 reps there, okay? But we're not trying to get like a full vertical jump there, okay? Maybe a half, 2/3 what we would normally do. Good fluid hip extension. Almost think about those of us that have done the dynamic squats in the weight room, where we talk about extending our hips and jumping the way up and absorbing down on the landing. Same thing, but even more so emphasizing the landing or the deceleration, okay? Be stationary for those two. Try not to creep forward. That means we're having good hip alignment. We're extending straight out, everything going one direction, okay? Next one is, this is where push-ups appear for the second time, right? So we'll go back through it. Just remember what I said at the beginning. Try to add some variety here if you can. Do a different type of push-up, okay? And our last one is our, it's a core, like a, again, non-traditional core exercise, gradient prevention exercise is our stationary bear crawl holds, right? So think about when we do like our Superman or our bird dogs, okay? We're trying to attack that band, right? That band around our lower back. But for this, we also get the benefit of some shoulder injury prevention work or stability, right? So how do I get into a bear crawl position if you've never done this before is, I'm gonna start at the top of a push-up, and then I'm gonna cheat my feet closer to my hands. So from here, right, my weight is evenly distributed on my hands and my feet. Think about it, 50% on my hands, 50% on my feet. Sometimes we do bear crawls, we want to get top heavy, where it's like 75-25. We want 50% and 50%, a nice, even, flat body, right? And if you notice from the side, my back is flat, right? So if we ever did like 4 rows in the weight room, right, we want that flat back position. Now from here, all I'm going to do is, similar to my Superman, similar to my bird dogs, is raise one hand and one foot at a time, actually opposite hand and opposite foot at the same time, just slightly, just about an inch off the ground, okay? And as I do that, I'm just trying to maintain my body alignment. So I'm not rocking, I'm trying to have as little movement as possible, keeping that belly button straight down. So again, starting at the top of the push-up, bringing my feet up. Once I have that good body posture, I'm gonna lift my opposite hand and foot ever so slightly off the ground, hold that for a 1 or 2 second count, and I'm just gonna alternate sides each rep, just like that, okay? So make sure we're breathing on that. Make sure our hands remain underneath our chest. We're not letting them get out in front of our face, okay? And make sure, again, we're really breathing there. Think about using your whole body, okay? So that just took us through our 9 exercises. So we're gonna go through that in order. 1 round, rest. Do that again in order. A 2nd round, then rest. Do that a 3rd round in order, and then we're gonna finish with our core exercises, okay? So our finishers for our core are some single leg hip circles. Again, now that we're getting more geared towards or heading towards return to play, we wanna start getting a little bit more hip flexor and hamstring work. And then our other one are banana rolls, okay? So those are an interesting one. I want to try to find a way to incorporate our hips and do essentially our rollovers that a lot of us do in the weight room with the stability ball, but without the stability ball. Okay. So first is our single leg hip circles. So for this, you are going to lay on your back. Okay. Just like always, we always want to start with our core contracted. So even though we're laying here, I'm not just resting flat. So my shoulder blades are just completely flat here. My neck and my head are resting on the mat. I want to bring that head and neck up. I want to crunch those shoulder blades off the mat a little bit. My opposite leg is straight with my toe pointed towards the ceiling. The leg is going to move. So in this circumstance, I'm going to start with my right leg. I'm going to start by bringing my toe up towards my nose, and then I'm going to go around in a circle and to finish with bringing it back towards my nose, okay? I want to try to keep that leg fairly straight, heel up towards the ceiling, and have good wide range of motion. And think about crunching, not just lifting with your hip flexors, okay? I mentioned the importance of engaging those hip flexors, and it's a big reason we want to do this core exercise, but that they work hand in hand. The bottom of our lower abdominals, our core, and our hip flexors, okay? So we're gonna go one direction. Again, toe towards our toe towards my nose, nice and wide, finish again, and then I'm gonna go the other way. Toe towards my nose, and then arc away and go outside. And I'm gonna do both directions on one leg, and then switch to the other, okay? Now for our banana rolls, if you've ever done like a hollow hold, it's similar, there's some similarities there. If you've ever done, like I said, our stability ball rollovers, there's some similarities, but basically we're trying to maintain a certain body position while we move or rock side to side. So I'm gonna start on my back, on my butt, similar to how I just was. I'm gonna rock over to my left hip, back to the middle, over to my right hip, back to the middle. Speed does not matter. Actually, slower is probably better, right? So my lower back is pushed into the ground right now. I'm gonna reach over and I'm just gonna maintain this position. So right now, I'm working more obliques, right? So I'm keeping my thighs off the ground and I'm keeping my triceps. So I'm kind of arching here, okay? Again, like they're called banana rolls because you almost have that little arc of a banana, right? So as I roll over to my side, again, I'm maintaining that position back to the beginning, over to the other side. Again, I'm arching a little bit. So right now, I'm really engaging that oblique, and then I'm just gonna go back and forth. I'm gonna take my time, and I'm gonna roll here, and then roll back to my side here. Okay, just maintaining that posture. It's one of those things that you do a couple reps like that, but we start to fatigue pretty quickly there, okay? Good posture, good control. Make sure the lower part of our back is flat against the mat, okay? And we're nice and long and we're elongated. If you're having a hard time with those, you could do them more like a hollow hold where you're not keeping your arms, a modified hollow hold where you're not keeping your arms overhead. You can keep them out in front or on your sides or here or in front, but ideally we want to get them overhead so we're nice and long. And again, that's where that banana reference or shape comes from, right? That arcing motion that we're going to maintain throughout, okay, by crunching our obliques, our core, and then the other opposite oblique. Okay, so hopefully that gave you a good overview on everything, took you through the circuit, took you through the core. Any questions, hit us up. If not, let's get after it. Go Lehigh.